Liming Sheng, I am in the front line of Wuhan funeral and funeral, we now need some assistance. I am in the front line of funeral in Wuhan, we need some assistance now. Original Zhu Nanru Gaiu Lab Tencent News Oral, written by Lao Huang, Wuchang Funeral Home Employees, edited by Zhu Nanru, Duteng produced Tencent News Gaiu Studio X Lichen Studio. Lao Huang, pseudonym, is a civilian in Wuchang Funeral Home, under 40 years old. Under the weight of the epidemic, he was also on the front line to pick up and transport the remains. According to the Wuhan Civil Affairs Bureau, of the 3 funeral homes in Wuhan, Hankou Funeral Home is responsible for receiving the remains of patients diagnosed with new crown pneumonia, while Wuchang Funeral Home and Qingshan Funeral Home are responsible for the delivery of other remains in the city, including those suspected of neocoronary pneumonia and common death of the person. As a group that has rarely received much attention from society all the time, today's frontline practitioners in the funeral industry are just like other people on the epidemic front. They use their professionalism and sweat to comfort and warm those who are in sorrow, but they also face the danger of being exposed to the epidemic at any time due to shortage of protective materials. Running an epidemic prevention kept them in high tension. At a critical juncture for everyone to fight the epidemic, Lao Huang hopes that his narrative will not be interpreted too much, but will allow more people to pay attention to their ongoing work and urgent needs to be resolved, and then provide some assistance. Here is his dictation. When I first started in this industry, I felt that this was an industry that would not be unemployed. I have been working for almost 10 years, and I am currently feeling the most exhausted period of time. We are under great pressure now. We must pull the remains of ordinary deaths in Hankou and Wuchang. We must also pull the remains of suspected new coronary pneumonia. From the second day onwards, all staff in our museum must go to work without a break. Years ago, the pressure was actually up. The superior leaders sent additional staff from Soizhou to support us, 1 car, 4 people. In our industry, it is impossible to send outside people to help, others will not do this, but only the personnel of your own unit to respond to the emergency, and also to transfer people from some small cities around. Now all the male staff in our museum are responsible for hauling the remains, the girls are responsible for disinfection, the disinfection of the whole museum, and the disinfection of the returning staff from our car. Now all the 4 telephones in the hall are being answered. The operators are on duty 24 hours a day, and they are exhausted. Our curator was on the line when he was 30 years old, and he didn't go home. Here, ordinary people cannot imagine. Come back out of the car, wash your hands terribly, disinfect yourself, and sit for a few minutes. There is no time for work. It is a round-the-clock operation. For example, I have to work from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. the next day. Our employees just lay back like this, sitting on the sofa waiting for the car, waiting for the next trip. It is always overnight at night, and you don't want to eat when you are tired. 6. Some of our employees dare not even drink water because they need to go to the toilet when they drink it, so it is difficult to take off their protective clothing. Protective clothing is impermeable and everyone is sweaty. Some of our employees are sick and working with sick bodies. A few people had some fever. The doctor suggested that they be isolated at home, but there was no way. The unit was too busy. They still had to come to help. In our business, we have already passed this level psychologically. The funeral home staff should be more psychologically able than others. But it is really sad to see these families and these remains. These are older people who can't go to the hospital and take medicine at home. Some older people have a basic illness that they can't handle, and they suddenly die. So, family members, how to say, are all collapsed. 6. I pulled a body a few days ago. He entered the hospital from the beginning, and his family could not see anyone until his death. The last thing his family saw was the ashes. It's sad to not see people. From his illness to his death, he was isolated in the hospital, and he could not see his family, nor could his family see him. The deceased was from the ICU but was not diagnosed. The cause of death after 6. 6 was severe pneumonia. The staff's handling of the remains was reflected in the cancellation of the mourning ceremony. Only the body was picked up and cremated. After the epidemic ended, the family members came to collect the ashes. Fortunately, the family members still understood it. They could not see the body and there was no memorial service. The family members were quite cooperative. We went to each family's house and they were very nice to us. They said that you worked hard. Thank you very much for coming to help with this funeral. Now the family members call and our units are asking for a death certificate to explain how they died. If it is a suspected patient, we ask the family members to disinfect it first and spray 84 disinfectant water at home. Some family members are more attentive and use their sheets to pack their bodies. If some family members are afraid to contact them, they will wait for us to pass, wrap them with a cover sheet, and then pack them away. Funeral homes are not allowed to come to their families now, and after the restrictions are lifted, they can come over to go through cremation procedures and get ashes. Everyone still understands this. We the people of Wuhan, for the country, it is impossible to say who will make trouble. We also need to wear protective clothing, gloves, masks and goggles when we go out to receive the remains. Even if you want to pick up ordinary corpses, you must protect them. Because some of the deceased died at home, we have to go to other people's homes. If we only wear funeral work clothes, family members will not rest assured. Everyone will feel relieved when wearing protective clothing. The problem now is that we are in short supply. An enterprise donated us hundreds of swimming glasses, which can also be used as goggles. But disinfection supplies, especially alcohol, as well as protective clothing, gloves, and masks are very scarce. Every time we take the body back to the museum, we spray the whole body with the disinfecting medicine, and hang the protective clothing after spraying the wine. If there are any remains to operate, we will put on this protective suit again. Each staff member repeatedly disinfects, wears, disinfects, and wears. That's it. 6. The funeral parlor staff carried out self-disinfection treatment after lifting the remains. Changjiang Daily reporter Chen Zhou, strictly speaking, protective clothing should be disposable, and after each body is pulled back, it cannot be used again. But nowadays, it can only be disinfected. The glue of the protective clothing is disposable, and it won't stick if it is torn. We can only tie the rope in order to wear it repeatedly. Alcohol is not enough. We even used a water similar to 84. I can't remember the name, but I don't think it can really disinfect. That water hurts the skin so much. We have to come back. We have to spray this water on our face and hands. My hand has an ulcer similar to eczema. Medical rubber gloves are also missing. We are now using disposable plastic gloves, the type that eats seafood, wear 2 layers and go. In fact, after the accident in the South China seafood market at the beginning of the year, our pavilion has prepared and purchased a batch of protective clothing, masks, including 84 disinfectant. But I did not expect to know that the amount is too large. At that time, we were required to wear masks and gloves, but we did not wear protective clothing. Until the second day of the new year, with the change of the epidemic, a large number of people became infected, and we did not wear protective clothing. Hey, don't write too much for us. When writing is very hard, citizens will think a lot. Not many people pay attention to us now, most of them are doctors, nurses, and hospitals. I saw the video on the internet, the doctor was really hard, and it collapsed. In fact, our funeral employees also collapsed, really. I just hope that we can help us to appeal for it. There is too little supplies now to see if any caring people can help us funeral workers. As for those hardships, we know in our hearts 6.